What's going on, everyone? Lalit here. Chase came out with their latest credit card known as the Chase Slate Edge. We'll be going over all the details from A to Z, but more importantly, answering the question, is it worth the place in your wallet? Some quick backstory about this card is that the original OG version of the Chase Slate Edge is actually known as the Chase Slate. The Chase Slate isn't around anymore, so won't go into those details, but at the same time, the Slate Edge is essentially the Chase Slate, but revamped. We'll start off with the high-level details, and then from there, dig a little deeper, and with that, let's get straight into it. Starting off with the sign-up bonus, you get $100 after you spend $500 in the first 6 months. From an annual fee perspective, it's $0 per year. From an APR perspective, similar to a couple other flagship cards by Chase, for example, the Chase Freedom Unlimited, as well as the Chase Freedom Flex, you get 0% for a specific amount of time. And with the Chase Slate Edge, you specifically get 0% APR for the first 12 months. The USP, aka the unique selling point of the Chase Slate Edge, I'll put a picture on screen and we'll walk through it together. You can lower your interest rate by 2% each year, and you're automatically considered for it. And how it works is, as long as you're paying on time and you're spending at least $1,000 each year, what Chase calls their account anniversary, you're basically going to have a reduction of 2% on your APR. And if you're curious about how low this interest rate can go, it can go as low as what they say as prime rate plus 9.74%. Feel free to forward along, but super quick, I think it's important for anyone out there that doesn't know to explain basically the difference between what prime rate is and other rates. When it comes to the prime rate, there's something important to understand known as the Fed funding rate, aka the federal funding rate. The federal funding rate is essentially the rate at which banks can borrow from each other. The reason this exists is essentially because of some laws in place of banks needing some certain amount of reserve every night when the day is over. Taking a quick example, let's say that the law says that certain banks need to have at least $100 billion in cash at the end of every day. Like this, let's say that Wells Fargo has $90 billion at the end of the day, and let's say that Chase has $110 billion. What can be done is essentially Chase lending $10 billion to Wells Fargo so they suffice the requirement, and likewise with Chase naturally, and that rate at which they borrow from each other at is the federal funding rate. When it comes to the prime rate, it's essentially banks lending to folks like you, like me, and basically based on your credit worthiness, aka how risky of a client you are, that's essentially where that rate comes from. Just as a rule of thumb, the spread between the Fed funding rate and the prime rate is usually around 3%. At the time of this recording, the Fed funding rate is closer to 0, and likewise with the prime rate, it's around 3%. And in this case with the Chase Slate Edge, it's 9.74%, plus your prime rate of 3.25%, and that's where that 12.99% is coming from, as low as you can go. We'll dig a little deeper after we cover all the details for the Chase Slate Edge, but with that, we'll get it back into the main part of the video. Moving on, another way this card is advertised is that you can actually raise your credit limit. The way it's worded, it sounds like a sign-up bonus add-on, where basically it's a part of the welcome offer, where after 6 months, if you spend $500 in those first 6 months, you'll basically be evaluated in a way to actually get a credit limit increase. And from there, it says that you can keep tabs on your credit by checking out Chase Credit Journey, which is basically their in-house tool for you to manage/monitor your credit. There are a few points that we went over that I want to dig a little deeper in and kind of give my perspective/my thoughts, which can only help you hopefully if you're actually thinking about getting the Chase Slate Edge. The first point I want to hit on is basically a point we just went over. It's basically that Chase Credit Journey tool. Essentially, you don't need to really have the Chase Slate Edge or a Chase card just to benefit from this one tool. If you're with folks like Bank of America or, for example, Wells Fargo, there's ways to get your FICO score kind of insights and details, which it may not be like to like in terms of a comparison, but at the same time, you'll probably get what you need in terms of understanding and determining what do you need to do next to maintain or improve your credit score. Second, they said it's a welcome offer where after 6 months, they'll evaluate you and basically see, okay, hey, you spent $500 in the first 6 months, but are we gonna raise your credit limit? And speaking from experience, whether it's Chase, PNC, Wells Fargo, BB&T, etc., I've definitely seen, at least in the beginning of my credit journey, definitely after 6 months, without even requesting it, I've gotten credit limit increases. This may be a point of the Chase Slate Edge maybe focusing towards folks with not so great credit, or folks that are looking to improve their credit, or naturally not exactly students, but maybe folks that have a thin credit profile. This is pretty advantageous because you don't need to apply for a new credit card to get more credit overall. And at the same time, you don't need to ask Chase for a credit limit increase, because when you ask Chase, hey, can you increase my limit? They usually run your credit, aka you're getting a hard inquiry. And although the impact could be kind of short from that, maybe a few months, maybe a few points, the overall point here is if you just spend $500 in 6 months and obviously you're willing to get this card, then you're going to get a credit limit increase, most likely is what it sounds like. The caveat slash point of caution I want to put out here for everyone who's thinking of getting this card and actually thinking, hey, 6 months later I'm going to get a credit limit increase. At the same time, if you're thin file, aka you don't have a lot of cards in general, if you think about it from a credit score impact perspective, one of the angles is credit card utilization. Credit card utilization is essentially saying how much do you actually have in terms of debt divided by how much do you have in terms of available credit. A super extreme example here is that let's just say you have 2 cards and for whatever reason you got $500 on credit card 1 and now you got the Chase Slate Edge and you got a $500 credit limit. And so what's your total credit limit here? It's basically $1,000. Taking this example to the edge, let's just say you maxed out credit card number 1 and on card 2 you need to spend $500 in 6 months. With a credit limit of $500, it's pretty doable, but at the same time, let's just say in month 1, you spend $450 plus. From a bird's eye view, it looks like you basically maxed out both your credit cards. And more specifically, if you look at the credit card utilization as a number, as a percentage, you're looking at $500 plus $450, which is equal to $950 of basically debt that you owe, divided by your credit limits of $1,000. 950 divided by $1,000 is 95%. A common metric that we hear about is that, hey, your credit card utilization should be 30% or less to be good. What most folks don't know is that there's good, then there's very good, and then there's excellent. To be excellent, you want to have 0 to 9% in terms of credit card utilization. This is why it's a catch-22, because when you have less credit line, let's say you have $1,000 and you max that out to $950 consistently, then your utilization is basically going to be tanking your score in the interim while you think, hey, I'm paying my bills on time, everything's going well, oh yeah, my credit score is going to go up, but it just doesn't happen. Moving on, I want to touch on the 0% APR kind of intro offer for the first 12 months. The circumstances are the same with other Chase flagship cards, aka the Chase Freedom Unlimited and the Chase Freedom Flex specifically, where you do have 0% APR for a certain amount of time. But what's important here is essentially if you look at the fine print, let's say, hey, you bought yourself 12 months and that's great. But there's other companies, and not to get too deep into it, but American Express, for example, you get 0% APR for X amount of time, but there's a fee when you balance transfer. And with certain cards with American Express, you can actually get 0% in terms of that fee as well. If you look at the fine print for Chase, it's basically the standard kind of 3% in terms of balance transfer fee, and other banks may charge a different amount for that balance transfer fee or a minimum amount in lieu of that, but overall 3% is what you're looking at. Like this, let's say you want to transfer $10,000 onto the Chase Slate Edge. That 3%, it's $300. That may be worth it, especially if you're already hitting interest somewhere else, but at the same time, if you're unaware about how balance transfers work, in general, that balance transfer fee is still a fee nonetheless and money coming out of your pocket, and in the future, you'll still have to pay that regardless. When it comes to rewards with the Chase Slate Edge, there's no rewards. So when you think about the balance transfer fee and offsetting it by just purchasing and seeing that, hey, maybe I'm getting some cash back, it's worth the balance just sitting there at 3% and it's not accruing any interest. But in this case, the Chase Slate Edge overall, in my opinion, looks more of a card for whether you're thin file, a beginner, or pretty much you're looking for a balance transfer, or this important point, which is basically what I'm really excited to share here. I was thinking about it earlier, but to me, the Chase Slate Edge could be a good example of getting into the Chase ecosystem in general. I remember the Chase Freedom before it became the Freedom Flex being my 3rd credit card in history ever. I'm sharing this because I actually applied for the Chase Freedom before I ever got approved for it. And when I first applied for it, I had less than 6 months with my initial first ever credit card. If you look at my data point or pretty much anyone else online, you'll basically come to the conclusion where Chase is pretty stringent and strict about allowing new folks to come in who have basically no credit or less credit history. Like this, if you're not a student and not eligible, for example, the Chase Freedom student version, then basically you can get the Chase Slate Edge, kind of not to weasel yourself way in, but let's say you don't want to pay an annual fee, aka for your Chase Sapphire Preferred or the Chase Sapphire Reserve. On the other hand, let's say that the Chase Freedom Flex and Freedom Unlimited are cards that you really want, but since you can't get them on your first try, or depending where you are on your credit journey, let's just say you're not really fit for getting approved, you could maybe get approved for the Chase Slate Edge. You get an easier chance of getting the card, and moreover, you can actually apply for the other cards that you want after some time. Granted, you have good history with Chase up to that point. Another way you could look at it is if you're going to forego the sign-up bonus for the Chase Freedom Unlimited or the Chase Freedom Flex or one of the more premium cards, for example, the Chase Sapphire Reserve or the Preferred, you can basically product change that Chase Slate Edge into these other cards. I say foregoing the sign-up bonus because when you do a product change, you're neither a new customer or a new applicant. So essentially what happens is you're going to get a new product, but you're not eligible for the bonus. This is related to a law known as the Card Act, essentially saying that the company, in this case Chase, cannot increase your annual fee in that 1 year since you get the card. So for example, let's say I get the Chase Slate Edge today and I want a product change to get the Chase Sapphire Preferred or Reserve tomorrow or 364 days from now. I will not be able to do that just because of how the law is. Coming to the 2% reduction in the APR, it's pretty straightforward, where they basically give you what the lowest percentage APR you could ever pay is. They essentially allow your APR to go down to the rate of 9.74% plus prime. Today, that's 12.99%. If you take a step back and think about the way that Chase would target their customers for the Chase Slate Edge, it may make more sense. The conflict of interest I see is essentially that the folks that are applying for this card may have not the best credit, or at the same time looking for a credit builder type of product. The reason I mention this is because the variable APR you can get approved for in terms of APR with Chase is all the way up to 23.74%. And yes, it can go as low as 14.99% when you're basically approved, but if you do the math, if you're the best credit profile, 14.99% is what you're approved for, then think about it this way. 1 year later, you're doing great. You get 2% lower, now you're down to 12.99%. What I'm getting at is that mathematically, the whole benefit of this card, if you have, let's say, perfect credit and you get the 14.99%, is essentially that after 1 year, you're at the lowest APR that can be given to you by Chase. Off the bat, I hope I don't need to say it out loud, but naturally, don't pay interest or don't spend more than you need to, because that's just burning money at that point. Life happens and credit can be used in emergencies and other factors in general, but the main assumption here is that we're not trying to pay interest in general. And if you flip the script, let's say I have the worst credit ever, but just enough to get approved for the Chase Slate Edge, then if you're looking at that 23.74%, so for easy numbers, let's say 24%, and as low as 12.99% is where I can get to, aka let's just say that's 13%. So 24 minus 13 is 11%. If you do the math, you're talking about 5 years plus to get basically past that 10% reduction in APR overall. If I was Chase from a company perspective, this is a great product option because if you think about it, the APR is never really zero, or the assumption here being that the type of profile of customer you're getting, maybe they're already paying interest and these rates are just lower or more affordable than what they're currently going through. At the same time, they could be looking at it like an incentive because I understand that there are folks that may not have that basic, what we consider financial education, to understand that, hey, interest rates is not something you need to pay. You don't need to have interest paid or debt or anything to raise your credit. It can all be done for free. So with that, this card I think is a great product for those that actually need it, want it, or if you look at it that way of getting into the Chase kind of ecosystem, then definitely it's a great product in that way as well. So am I going to get this card? For me personally, it's not a cashback card, it's not a travels rewards card, and a balance transfer card such as the Chase Slate Edge is something that I want to keep kind of in the back pocket as an option just in case in life if I ever need it. If you came this far, here's a finale fact for you. If you do a balance transfer, to example the Chase Slate Edge, you can transfer balances, let's just say from anywhere, but there's one place you can't, and that's basically debt that you already have with Chase. If you want to balance transfer to a PNC card, you can't transfer the same PNC type of debt from one credit card to another, and this is the same situation with banks in general. Thanks for coming to the end.